This is WBSM On Demand.
It's time for South Coast Now with Chris McCarthy. Streaming live on WBSM.com and the WBSM app. Call 508-996-0500. Text us using App Chat on the WBSM app. Now, Chris McCarthy.
Good morning. Welcome back. I'm Chris McCarthy. I want to thank Bob McConnell for coming in and Jen Nassau for phoning in on behalf of Nikki Haley. So as you can tell, folks, tomorrow's election day. So I'm trying to drum up as much, support, many people to go to the polls as possible. It's a presidential primary. There are other local people on the ballot, like Bob McConnell on the Republican side, Leon Corey here in Fairhaven, and Charlie Mata from Mattapoisett. On the Democrat side, they'll be on the ballot. So there are other reasons. I know it seems like a fait accompli between Dean Phillips and President Biden, but I couldn't find anybody to speak for Dean Phillips, but I did find someone who's been a long-time supporter of the President of the United States since back to his days as a U.S. Senator, and that's my friend, Representative Christopher Markey from Dartmouth, who represents also New Bedford. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. So you're here to speak up for why people should go out tomorrow and vote in the Democrat primary for the President of the United States, Joe Biden. The floor is yours.
No, I just think it's pretty much a no-brainer in my mind for doing that.
Right.
I get, there's obviously people who will have concerns, right? The age thing seems to be the big issue is can he do this for 4 more years? I would just say this is that my concern more than anything else is keeping our country a country. And it sounds, I don't want to sound like I'm over dramatic in any way.
Right.
But we need to make sure our institutions survive. And I honestly look at it and say, I think the alternative raises real concerns about that.
You don't think Dean Phillips could preserve the republic?
What do you mean? That he could what?
That he could preserve the republic, Dean Phillips.
Oh, I think he could.
Because he's the alternative tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. But I think that Biden's experience overall and the people that he has around him, I thought with like the Clinton era that, he was spectacular at the sound bites. But they were meaningless. Back then I was a big Songus guy because he was thoughtful. Mm-hmm. He had a real plan. And I thought that mattered.
Right.
Right. Like you could say all the cliches.
The bumper
pick
stickers.
On people. Yeah.
Right.
And I think the Republican side is perfected that now. They've cornered Biden into the old gentleman, difficult understanding to concentrate. It doesn't seem that way. It seems like we're coming out of a pandemic and the economy is doing well. Mm-hmm. Unemployment is down. Now people say the inflation is up and the cost of living has gone up, and there's a variety of reasons for that. One is we're coming out of the pandemic where we spent a lot of money and we need to repay that back. So I get all that. But in the end, you look at it and you say, what has he done? And I look at it as the economy has done very well, that the institutions are surviving without anything going over the top, and that people have that confidence, at least in Wall Street, clearly, mm-hmm. in Biden. And that's important to have that. And again,
You've been a supporter of Joe Biden for a long time.
Yeah, I was huge supporter of him in 2020 because I thought the alternatives to the Democrats were so far left that they could not win, number one, and that they were unrealistic as to how to sustain our country. I don't think it was even close in my mind. I thought his experience would pay off. I think it has paid off. I think as much as people on the right will say he's way over to the left and he's listening to too many people, I don't think that's the case. I think he's trying to find moderate solutions to huge problems in our country.
We have Representative Chris Markey here in studio, and again, folks, as you can tell, I've got trying to get people. We've had the former sheriff of Bristol County, Tom Hodgson, here stumping for Donald Trump. We had Jen Nassauer here earlier talking about Nikki Haley. As I said, I couldn't find anybody locally for Dean Phillips. I did call someone for it, but Dean Phillips will be on the ballot as well in the Democrat primaries. There's a lot of reasons to go out and vote tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like you said earlier, is the town committees, both in the Democratic, in Dartmouth, the Democratic Town Committee, as well as the Republican Town Committee.
Both of them have,
and then have
vibrant
state
ones. Yeah.
So, and both, I think, are pretty active in the community.
Right.
Both have had successes in dealing with getting people here. I remember John Horan from Dartmouth.
Sure.
He's very active in the state party.
And very active in the fishing community.
Yep. So, and he brought down, I remember him bringing down Charlie Baker.
Yep.
And any other Republicans coming to Dartmouth, I think right to his house. So there are people who are very active and doing good things on both sides.
Yes. Yeah, no, it is very important that you go out and vote tomorrow because, again, as we talk about it, likely that Joe Biden will win Massachusetts tomorrow. I doubt he would not win tomorrow. And I believe that Donald Trump will win tomorrow here in Massachusetts. But we won't know until sometime tomorrow night who actually wins. But in addition to that, you have the state committee people, both sides. Competitive race on the Democrat side. You have Charlie Mata from Mattapoisett and Leon Corey, the chairman currently for one more meeting, I believe, of the selectmen here in Fairhaven. And of course, we've had Bob McConnell and Joanne Hodgson on the Republican side in the town committee. So there's a lot of reasons to go vote tomorrow. Chris, what are the things that Joe Biden has done that you think are important?
Well, I think one thing is the rebound from the pandemic.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's overlooked a lot. And there are a lot of other things, but I really focus on that, is saying, how did we rebound from it? And did we do it in the kind of the right way? And I thought that we have created an environment. If you look back historically, we had a pandemic back in the 17, somewhere in that area. It was about 100 years ago.
About 100 years ago.
And the rebound from that was struggled, and then it ended up in the Depression. So, I look at it as saying, I don't think we're in that path, and it is a difficult thing to do, to come back from that. I thought the utilization of the vaccinations, the putting that out, getting everything organized, and having the buttress for that infrastructure, both locally and then at the state level and then at the federal level, getting the funding going. And granted, now the one issue that he is getting hit hard with, which I think is unfair, because I don't think it's his problem. I think it is Congress's problem, is the immigration issue. Right. And we're feeling it here. And it really bothers me that both sides, the far left is just ridiculous and the far right is ridiculous. We need a responsible immigration policy that allows people to come here and work and earn their citizenship. That doesn't mean what I think has been described in the far left as open the borders and whoever wants to basically come. Right. And then the far right has this idea that just close off the border and the wall is going to save everything. That's just, they're both naive, they're both foolish, but they both raise money. So no one wants to touch it because that's the issue that they want to fight over. And he's stuck in the middle. And people say, oh, you can do more executive orders or do that. They're going to get flipped. I mean, some of Trump's stuff got flipped when he tried to do certain things.
Right.
But I do believe that is an issue that Congress has to work with. They had an opportunity to do that, and they didn't. It was an on the Senate side, it passed by bipartisan, and now we're looking at the House, and they're not doing anything. And it's unfortunate because that's, in my mind, that's one thing that can actually get accomplished, and there could be some success.
We're taking your phone calls at 508-996-00. Representative Chris Markey, loyal Democrat that he is, professional defense attorney, doing his best for Joe Biden here in the studio, and I'm not interrupting because I'm amazed. Would you be surprised that the phone lines are lighting up, Chris? Let's go to the phone line. Good morning. Thank you for holding.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I respect Chris. I don't agree with a lot of the things that he says. He's a little too far to the left, but I understand his position, and I do respect him for his position. However, when he says that Biden doesn't own part or all of the immigration situation, I tend to disagree, and that it was Biden who spoke during his campaign that and afterwards that the border is open, come on in. So he actually did say that more than once. So when you tell people to come, they will come, and I don't blame the people who are coming here. They're looking for a better life, but it clearly is on Biden's shoulders that the immigration policy is what it is. And furthermore, he goes on to say that the borders are safe. How many times are secure? How many times did he say that? And now he's saying they're not secure. So I just don't trust anything he says. He says whichever way the wind is blowing, that's the way Biden goes. I appreciate Chris's comments.
Thank you for the call. I do appreciate that. Don't be a stranger. You don't have to be a weatherman to know which way the wind blows, right? Chris, what do you say to that?
No, I just say my recollection is that when Vice President Harris was trying to control the border and the southern border, she was saying to tell people don't come to the United States. We can't do it. We can't do it. It's so, and I mean this and I don't mean to be sound like a jerk in any way, but it's easy to be against the immigration policy, opening the opportunities for people who have nothing and coming from a third world nation or a second world nation and giving them the opportunity when we're here and we're doing things. But there's human beings. So but at the same time we can't afford to do it.
Right. Right.
So we should try to figure out the humanity side of it and do the best we can with that and let certain people in who fit certain qualifications.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the other side of it is we need immigrants to run our economy. And
all my Uber drivers are immigrants, just about.
Yeah, but that's just, and that may be the occupation of people in the Northeast, but if you go out to California or to the Midwest, the farming,
they're Lyft out there. I think they use Lyft.
Well, the farming industry needs the immigrant workers.
Right.
Unless we want to spend $7 an hour, $7 for a head of lettuce.
Right.
That's the way it's going to go.
When we come back, Chris, we'll address what you think is going to happen. I mean, you've been on the front lines of this immigration issue. You better than anybody understand the finances of this and the real tragedy of it, really, what's going on. But you're a loyal Democrat, and I do appreciate it.
I love the little disclaimer at the end. But the immigration issue in Massachusetts is we have a emergency shelter program.
Right.
It's not an emergency resettlement program.
There you go.
And that's what we need to worry about. We can't just have it so that we're going to have everyone resettle in Massachusetts and we're going to pay for it. We cannot afford it.
Right.
Period.
In the legislature, you have constituents with priorities, and you didn't anticipate taking a whole bunch of families, thousands of them, from foreign nations into this budget. There's no way anybody could have anticipated that.
Correct.
Right. And so it's unrealistic for them or their activists or their attorneys to think that the Massachusetts taxpayers and you as our representative can make that happen. It's unrealistic.
No, it is. I mean, we cannot.
So you can break the news to them here. When we come back from commercial, folks, stick around. We have Representative Chris Markey here doing his best to get you to go out and vote tomorrow. He wants you on the Democrat side, voting for Joe Biden. I'd like you to pull whatever ballot makes you comfortable, whatever gets you out. I want you to pull it, and we'll be right back.
SM.
That's Winning by Santana, which I think that tomorrow there'll be easily a Republican and a Democrat who's winning. If you go out and vote, we've got a number of people on hold. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Good day. Does that mean you're going to play We Are the Champions by Queen for the winner tomorrow? Ferris Freud checking in.
Thank you, Ferris.
From Marion, Massachusetts.
Where a lot of the New Deal legislation was signed because Roosevelt was out in his sailboat off of Martha's Vineyard signing New Deal legislation. So you're out there replicating the trip of Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Well, I'd like to remind the listeners of what one of the great political minds of all time said when it comes to voting. It's not who votes that counts. It's who counts the votes that really matters.
Stalin.
And our guest today has been around long enough to know that there are no more elections. There never will be ever again a free and fair election. And, of course, the 24 election was the biggest steal in history. But I'd like to talk about your comments about keeping the country a country.
Yes.
And you came back to the guest using the word republic. Now, I'd like to remind everyone that words matter.
Yes, sir.
Words are precious. Some of us worship words because of the power of the word to affect the thinking, right? So when he says keep the country a country, I'm afraid that it's not a republic, Chris. You can't pick up from that because what we have now, you talked about an event that happened about 100 years ago. I'd like to talk about an event that happened about 100 years ago, and that was inviting the female of the species into the voting place. So I'd like to point out to the guest that it was a republic, but now it's a country with no O. It's a country with no O. And that's where we are. We have a governor of Massachusetts.
I really don't understand that. But thanks for the call, Ferris. 508-996-0500. That's going to take me a little bit to figure out. But you believe women should have the right to vote, Chris? You have a wife and a number of daughters and a mother. And
yes.
Law partner a previous law partner was a female. So you're okay with the women's right to vote?
Yes, very much so.
Okay, all right.
Don't get me in that.
Well, that's what he's talking about. I told you it would be interesting. 508-996-0500. We're going to go right back to the phone. I'm going to take another chance. Good morning. Thank you for holding.
Good morning.
Hi. You're on the air.
So, Mr. Markey, I'd like to know why is it your party seems to think that we can take in every illegal refugee that jumps the border and feed them, house them, and everything else in Massachusetts when we have a governor, your governor, not mine, that went down to Mexico and basically gave them roadmaps to come up here. Come on up to Massachusetts because we got everything to give to you. In the meantime, we have veterans that you guys don't give two bleeps about that are living on the street. You could care less about their health, their welfare, their downtrodden lives, but yet you got all these illegals you want to bring up here on the premise that, oh, man, we need so many of these people to come here illegally because who's going to pick the crops? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Yet you give them licenses here, along with a few other states. And I don't know if everybody realizes you're automatically put on a voter's roll in this state. So I don't care who's going to try to tell me that no one of these illegal aliens are going to try and go and vote. And I'm not talking about presidential. I understand they're being allowed to vote for everything under the sun but the president.
Thanks for the call, sir. I do appreciate it. Chris, just one correction for that gentleman. How did you vote on the driver's license for illegal aliens?
I voted against that.
So you bucked your whole party, just about.
Yeah, and I have real concerns about the emergency shelter program, which I think is turned into a resettlement program, and we don't have the capabilities at the state level to be able to do that. And this is part of my whole concern about everything, is that we label people, Trump people or MAGA people, or we label them Democrats,
left-wing communists.
Yeah, it's not how it works.
Right.
And we can't keep these sound bites going if we're going to be productive and be the leader of the world. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm really concerned about it is our leadership. We need Europe. Not just there's a wing of the Republican side that wants to start now for the first time ever. Like, it's shocking that
it's shocking to me.
That,
shocking to me.
Reagan saw the beauty of having an international leader like us, and we destroyed the Soviet Union.
Yes. It's shocking to me as well, Chris.
And the freedoms that came to all the people in Eastern Europe, East Germany, all of those places benefited from Reagan's idea of what the world should look like.
Central America. He made Central America a lot better.
Now we're turning that around in the Republican Party as some of them, and the ones who are now look like they're going to be the leaders, which is concerning, have turned that whole belief. And it's concerning because we're going to lose the trust of a lot of those people in Western Europe and around the world. And I think that that's a real, real concern.
508-996-04, a couple of people on hold. I do have one phone line open if you'd like to get through. Chris, before we go to the phones, the migrant shelter program, when do you think the House and the Senate are going to address that?
I think there might be it's going to be the main part of it, I think, will be done in the budget in April.
Okay.
I think we're just going to try to maneuver it around as early as this week for the remainder of the fiscal year, so for the next 3 months.
Okay, somehow fund it.
Fund it or change it to a degree where we can do certain things.
Right.
But I think the more concerning thing is how do we deal with it
because
next fiscal year.
When that program was put in place back under Michael Dukakis, with a different legislature, obviously, but it's a good program. If it has limitations, because if someone loses their house in a fire or domestic abuse, can't stay at their house, we in Massachusetts certainly have enough of a budget to be able to provide them with temporary housing and shelter. That's what the law was intended for. As you point out, it was not intended to be a resettlement program, which is what it's become.
Yes.
And so what the
the reason why it's changed is because Congress hasn't done anything on the immigration issue. And they want to continuously battle it. The far left wants it as an issue so they can raise money. The far right wants it as an issue so they can raise money, and they can just keep their political campaigns going.
And the open borders really come from the far right. It's the Koch brothers who originally, in the Cato Institute and the Heritage Foundation to some degree, not anymore, but who originally came out with the open borders plan because it was designed to crush the unions.
Yeah,
I was there. I mean, I've been studying the right my entire life. I can remember when that stuff started coming out. Open borders and letting people come across, it'll depress wages. It's an amazing, and it's working. It's amazing. All right, we have some people on hold. Good morning. Thank you for calling.
Good morning, everybody.
How you doing?
First thing I want to point out is, Chris, I'd like to give kudos to you to sit in there and take phone calls all the Republican people that came in before you, there was no phone call, so you must be doing something right.
Well, just so you know, when someone's on the phone, I don't take phone calls because it really makes a bad interview. So that's why, and Chris is always willing to take phone calls.
Yes, and kudos to him because, I mean,
deserves it.
everybody's challenging to call in. So I'm going to flip the script a little bit, and I'm going to endorse Biden for president, and we can use one particular project right in the city of New Bedford when you see those giant cranes as you come down Route 18. That project was dead in the water under the Trump administration.
Yes.
That project is only stage 1 of 3, totaling $15 billion in investment in the area for us here in New Bedford. And at the same time, that project is a PLA project. What does that mean? You don't have companies coming from all over the place paying half the wages that they should be paying. Those are all Massachusetts citizens on that job site getting paid very well, who are going to take those funds that they earn and now spend it in the local communities where they reside, whether it's New Bedford or Fall River or Middleborough, wherever they may be. I mean, everybody wants to bash Biden for the economy, but last week the CPI print was 2.4 on the inflation rate. So we're almost right back to where it's supposed to be. And like Chris mentioned earlier, we're coming out of a pandemic where the nation's economy came to a screeching halt, and we are now trying to get it back on a level field where everyone is going to feel it and feel like we have a part in the economy. And if I may, one last thing, the immigration conversation. As a person who works in the construction fields, I can attest to the fact that they can't find anybody. And when you have 10,000 boomers retiring a day, you have a labor drain that has not been seen in this country for a very long time. So as far as the immigration is concerned, do we need an open border? Absolutely not. But do we need these people to do the jobs, like Chris alluded to earlier? Who will pick the strawberries? Who's going to fillet that fish in the fish house? Is it going to be some American at minimum wage? Probably not. So we need to find common sense solutions. Maybe here in Massachusetts, we can set up our own Ellis Island where these people will come in, they'll be given a license, they'll be given some form of Social Security, and they become tax-paying citizens in the state, paying into the system, growing the economy from inside the state of Massachusetts. Meanwhile, in southern states like Florida and Texas, who think it's cute to bust these people up, guess what? They can't find anybody to bang nails to build their houses after hurricanes now. That's my 2 cents.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. It was a good call. Don't be a stranger. What do you think? What about the fact that we could set up an Ellis Island here, Chris? In fact, wasn't Governor DeSantis really trying to do that on Martha's Vineyard?
Well, just a couple things.
Sure.
One, when during the last commercial break, I was thinking of should I mention anything locally, and I would the offshore wind was number one.
There's no doubt about that. That's all Biden. I agree.
And not only was it all Biden, but before it,
and Baker, actually.
It was all Obama.
Yeah.
And then it stopped on January 20th, 2017. And it was Trump's idea never to do offshore wind. He was never going to do it. And that's why this is where we are now, but we could have been here 4 years ago.
And no doubt about it, Donald Trump is against offshore wind.
And then Vineyard Wind has been incredibly successful trying to bring in more and more local people. And they just announced that the 5 turbines that they got going now create energy to keep 30,000 households. That's amazing. Right. And again, is it going to take time to make it more efficient and get better? Yes. We get better at everything we do over the course of time, and we will become more efficient at it.
I totally agree, Chris. And look, I think you need offshore wind as part of the energy mix. I think that it's amazing the discoveries that are going on in energy. So I think at some point, offshore wind will be just another part of the mix that your kids, your grandkids will be amazed at the amount of energy and the different sources that they get it from.
But this is where, this idea we're going to do net zero, right? It's unrealistic.
Carbon.
Yeah, all this, that's unrealistic. But what you have to do is it's like when you put your money into a 401k or into any type of retirement thing or any investment, You want to have a series of different options.
Right.
You want it aggressive.
Diversity.
You want and you want moderate, and you want conservative. And that's what I think all of this does, is our energy will be based upon a diverse sources.
We have Representative Chris Markey here in studio. He's stumping for Joe Biden, but his big message is, like my message, he wants everybody to go out and vote tomorrow. Pull a ballot, whether you're a Libertarian, Republican, or Democrat. If you're unenrolled, you have a place. You just have to choose tomorrow. And we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the program. I'm Chris McCarthy, and we have Representative Chris Markey, who's here in studio, and as that caller just said, has the guts to take phone calls. And again, I always have my guests in studio take phone calls if there are any. Chris always seems to generate some calls. But if they're on the phone, that's my choice, because it's really terrible radio to have you on the phone line calling in and asking them. It just doesn't work. Anyway, good morning. Thank you for holding.
Yeah, I got a statement about that last caller.
Okay.
I'm a Hispanic, right?
Yes, sir.
And I'm getting sick and tired of these racist, demeaning statements by Democrats saying who's going to pick up the strawberry. That's demeaning and disrespectful and racist, and I wish that Democrats would stop using that line. It's very insulting to the Hispanic community. We come here and we work everywhere, not just picking strawberries. And that is demeaning. And the one party that I hear that a lot from is the Democrats. I'm sick and tired of it. It's offensive. And I wish it stopped.
Thank you for the call, my friend. Don't be a stranger. Chris, what do you say to that?
I don't think that that's the Democratic way. I do think that you have to be realistic about the immigrants coming, and that they're going to start somewhere lower and work their way up. And I say this, there is nothing, no group of people have made our community in New Bedford or Fall River so great more than the Portuguese community.
Right.
And they started as bricklayers. They started as construction workers, fish plants. They worked in all types of places where it was manual labor, and you see where their children are to now.
Right.
And they're the doctors at St. Luke's, they're the accountants that we're going to, they're the lawyers. They saw the value of education. This country gave them the opportunity to work, save money, live the American dream, buy a house, get their kids to college and get educated, and then move on. I see the same thing with the Guatemalan community in New Bedford now that the Portuguese were 35, 40, 50 years ago now that I'm that old, but 60 and 50 years ago. So that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But you have to start somewhere.
Well, you have to let them work.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is crazy that there was a period of time, I don't know where these work permits are still, right? I mean, the governor was appealing to the federal government.
I think it's happening a little bit quicker now.
Right.
From my understanding is it's happening a lot quicker, that the federal government's actually moving on it a little bit more.
Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Hey, Chris Markey, how you doing?
Good.
I know your job is definitely to support your party and the candidate that is on the ballot. My question is, the president, and as you mentioned, his team, who's making decisions, clearly dismantled the border security, and the effects have stung sanctuary states like Massachusetts to the point where the governor has declared an unlimited state of emergency. And then the White House, basically, when challenged, lies about it and says the border mess has to do with somebody else. I guess the question is, what's your answer to me voting for President Biden when the White House is telling me not to believe my lying eyes when I see what's going on? And we know we're not idiots. We see what's going on. So how do I vote for President Biden knowing this? Thank you.
Thanks for the call.
No,
Chris?
I think when you
that
look
is the challenge, right, for you guys?
I think the immigration is the biggest issue.
Yeah.
That deals with this, because it's easy to label stuff. It's complex, and there's only so much you can do as the president, and you can, but it's a
But was it wrong of President Biden to dismantle the Trump-era policies?
I don't know if it was to do all of them. I think there were some that needed to be dealt with. But I do think that there is a need to deal with the border that, I've heard several congressmen from the Democratic side speak about how, they're late to the game on it, but they're going to fix it. And then when they propose a change, the Republican Congress says, no, we're not going to do it. And then they put unrealistic goals on them before they'll actually address it. That should be a real concern, is they're playing the game.
Isn't the problem that the far left so demonized Donald Trump that Biden was in a box, that if he agreed with some of Donald Trump's policies, which clearly they were working, clearly they were good, he was forced by the hard left part of your party to unwind those policies when he probably didn't want to?
I would say that's the exact same issue that the Republicans are facing. The traditional Republicans are facing the same thing. It's insane that we have the parties where we are, where they're so different and controlled by each extreme and not in the middle.
We're going to take one more call. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Hello?
Hi, you're on the air.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Chris, Representative Chris. I just can't see anybody voting for Biden that really cares about this country. And the reason why I'm saying that is, and I'm hoping the Republican Party, either Haley or Donald Trump, really puts out there who their vice presidency, because it's so important, especially with Joe Biden's age. And to have Kamala Harris as President of the United States scares me to death. So that reason, amongst a bunch of other ones, I would never vote for the Democratic Party right now. I've done in the past, but I wouldn't do it now.
Thank you for the call, my friend. Folks, Crystal, we'll address it when we come back, but I do have to take a quick break. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I want you to go to Mac Auto Sales, 188 Rivet Street in New Bedford. They repair all makes and models. If you need to do some improvements to your car, get it ready for the next season, I want you to call Mac Auto Sales and Repair, 508-565-6221. They're open for your convenience weekdays 9 to 5. If you have a foreign car, that's perfect. They specialize in foreign car repairs. Mac Auto Sales, they also have really great aftermarket accessories as well as quality used cars for sale. Go check out Mac Auto Sales. Tell them Chris McCarthy sent you. Who are you voting for in the Democrat primary, Chris Markey?
Joe Biden.
You'll be out tomorrow voting?
I will be. And, the other thing that people have to remember, more importantly, is independent people can pick a ballot.
Yes.
So if independent people who are more right-leaning, they should consider Nikki Haley.
You hear that, folks? Even the Democrats are stumping.
No, I'm just saying that, I have real fear of what happens over the next 4 years if we have another.
Don't worry, I'll speak up for you.
No, it's okay. But I would prefer everyone vote for Biden, but I get it.
When we're loading you into carts here, I'll say, no, to pull him out. Pull him out.
No. But
pull him out of line.
The other side of it is consider putting people's names in for the different parties, whether it be the Republican side or the Democratic side.
In the town
committees.
Yeah.
I think that's an important part. It'll also give a balance to both sides. If you're an independent, they need more independent thinking people on both sides and more moderate people on both sides. And I think our country would be in a way better spot than we are now and where we could be in the future.
Chris, I always appreciate you coming in and speaking up for your party and for your issues. Folks, up next is Barry Richard. Remember, go vote tomorrow. If you have a problem voting, I want you to call me at 508-996-0500. You get some confusion, misdirections, bad information, and you can always call Barry tomorrow as well. We're going to be on guard for you. That's your civil right to go vote. Folks, stick around. You have Bill O'Reilly, then you have Barry Richard coming up after that. It's a good time to get on hold, 508-996-0500. I'll be back tomorrow. Again, go vote.